Hey guys, Marmalade here for Q&A number 27. I hope everybody's doing well. Thanks for joining me. It is another breezy day in the park, so I'm going to try to talk in between the breezy parts, and I have the phone kind of protected, but be patient with me if there's a little bit of wind noise. But let's get right on to question number one. All right, our question number one is from Terry Savini. She asked me, so many people keep leaving things behind on the trail. How do you keep track of all your stuff so you won't be one of them? So it's partly Terry, and I know Terry is close to my age. I'm 57, so but I don't think with my gear I was very forgetful. I did lose one thing on trail, and that was above Idlewild when I was post-holing in the snow above there, where I was telling you about how it took me, I think it took us 9 hours to go 11 miles, and I was post-holing up to my waist. But towards the end of the day, it started to have this heavy 50-mile-an-hour mist that turned out to be like rain. So I stopped, pulled everything out of my pack to get to my rain jacket, because there was no rain, and really wasn't raining, but there was no rain in the forecast. So put everything back in, and literally had my cook set in a bright orange bag sitting on the snow, put everything back, put my pack on, and my partner and I both, neither one of us saw it. We walked away from it, and I didn't know till I got to camp. And I wasn't going back for it, and nobody ever caught up to me and brought it to me. So that was kind of a bummer, so somebody kept it. But anyway, to answer your question, I would think the only way to really, like when you take a break, when you sit down, I use a Z-Seat little foam pad. It's pretty bright, so I just make sure before I leave, and I'm leaving to start my hike again, that I look back, make sure I have everything. Also, you can leave trekking poles, so just make sure when you're putting these things like trekking poles, I try not to put them way over against a tree somewhere. I try to put them right in front of my feet where I can see them. And then that's the last thing I do when I get up to leave, when I start hiking again, is look at where I was. The other way is really just, I know in the mornings, getting in a routine of packing your pack the same way. So just, your pack should be set up a certain way for proper weight distribution in your pack, but also just knowing that every single thing has its spot. And that changed for me over time, but for the most part, every day, everything's in the same spot. Of course, if it's going to rain, you might pull your rain gear out, put it on top of your pack, but for the most part, that's the best way to just know where everything is and to not lose something. So our next question is from Gail Walker. She asked me, how does the bounce box work? Do you call them to bounce them ahead if you know you can't pick them up? How about things you ordered on Amazon? What do you put on the address label? So I'll try to, somewhere in here, put a picture of the address label of one of the post offices that I had planned to send it to. But this is interesting. The bounce box is interesting because we as hikers call it a bounce box, but the post office does not. So I went to my post office. I said, hey, this is I'm a hiker on the Pacific Crest Trail, and I got a blank stare from the lady, and I explained what we use the bounce boxes for, and we keep things in. And just so for you folks, if you don't know, a bounce box is something that some of the hikers use. If you have a roll of duct tape, and you have some gloves, and you have medicine, or you have prescriptions, or it could be anything, right? Socks, clothes, anything. You put them in a flat rate box. You can pay, I think it's depending on the size of the box, you pay a flat rate to ship. It doesn't matter how much it weighs, of course. That's actually the boxes we use for resupply too. But it's a bounce box is a box that you, I don't know, you may not need your micro spikes and your gloves to the Sierra, so you mail it to Canyon Meadows to have then. But sometimes when you get to the place, you don't need what's in the box. So the purpose of the question is, when we use a bounce box for all the extra odds and ends stuff you may or may not need, you have it if you don't have anybody else to supply you. So the problem is that when I explained what we use the boxes for, I got a blank stare and no answer. And I've actually called another post office and got the same answer. So I don't think there's a set policy on the way we use the boxes. So what Gail's asking is, what we do know is that if you seal up your items in a flat rate box and you pay for it to be shipped ahead of you, when you get there, let's say you don't need it, as long as you do not open it, you can bounce it for free, from what I understand, at least 2 times. But the lady at my post office said it's at least a couple times, but sometimes small towns might do it for you just for the heck of it and not charge you. So sometimes you can bounce it more for free, sometimes not. But they said you can count on at least twice being bounced for free. So if you get to the town, you don't need what's in it, don't cut it open. You can bounce it for free to their next spot wherever you want it sent. Once you cut it open, you've exhausted that shipment, and you've got to pay again to have it reshipped. So I wrestled with having a bounce box. I ended up not doing it, and I didn't regret it at all. I did have my buddy Robert to send me things, or to send to if I needed to. But as it turned out, you know, I didn't need it for anything, so I didn't do it. Okay, so what I understand with Amazon, to answer your other questions, Amazons go to addresses but not to post offices. So post offices I do not think will take Amazon packages. It can only go to addresses and homes and businesses and things like that. All right, our next question is from Washington Mike. When hiking long hours, how do you store and access music? What genre do you personally like? So one of the things that I had to tell myself, I, like everybody, love music. Most people love music. But I purposely, I brought music, and I'll show you what I had, and I'm going to change things up with the music part of this. But I purposely wanted to, in the desert it's good to only have one earbud in when you're listening to music, or none at all because of rattlesnakes, and so you can hear them. But I purposely wanted to not have music playing the whole time, or podcasts, things like that. I wanted to enjoy the sounds if I'm talking to people. I just wanted to be in the moment with the trail and enjoy it as I could. So if you guys watch my through hike, I don't think I listened to music the whole desert. I could be wrong on this, but I figured out that it helped me in Washington because the mountains were the elevation climbs were so steep and so often that I found that sometimes I'd cold soak some of my Via Starbucks coffee in my chest water pouch, and when I had a big climb I would put my earbuds on, and I'll show you what I used, and I'd put some music on and just sip coffee all the way up, and it would help me, I think, get jacked up caffeine wise, and also take my mind off of the difficulty of the steepness of the hill. And before I knew it, I was over the mountains. It also helped that it was the latter part of my hike, so I'd hiked 700-800 miles, so I was in good shape too. But climbing steep mountains is not my favorite thing to do. It's my least favorite thing to do, but I learned to appreciate it and get better at it. And so yeah, I did listen to music for that, but I would take them off, my earbuds off, as soon as I got to the top, almost every single time. So yeah, and so what I used was, I have a very old iPod Shuffle, and I'll show this to you close up in a minute in a video, but iPod Shuffle, it literally is this big. I wish they still made it. They don't make it anymore. They had different generations. The first one has a clip. I would hang it on the strap that hangs down from my waist belt on my pack, just let it hang there, and then my cord for my earbuds would go here. I bought generic. I had expensive ones, but they broke. I got generic at Target, some earbuds. So that's what I use. And this is what I like, is this weighs, I don't even know, like 1/10 of an ounce, but it weighs nothing. And then this is the charge cord to go into my exterior Anchor batteries. Literally just plugs the USB plug, and this plugs into this. And because it is small and has a very small battery, it's charges up really fast. It doesn't use much of my battery, so that's what I use. It's the iPod Shuffle. And I'm actually maybe going to the Apple store today. I'm going to go look and see. They don't make them this small anymore, but I'm going to see what they have. And it's time to, this thing's locked, so I cannot add music to it, and I can't take any off. So it's got a lot of stuff I like, and a lot of old stuff that I don't listen to anymore. And to answer your other question, I have a pretty eclectic taste in music. I'm pretty interesting. For the last bunch of years, my favorite group was Linkin Park, but I like all the old rock things, you know, that I grew up with in the 80s music. I like smooth jazz. I like acoustical music, pop music. I like a little bit of everything, and what's great about that is I try to have a little bit of everything on my my shuffle and whatever I listen to, so that depending on my mood. So yeah, I like reggae music, which is more popular in Southern California. But so I like a little bit of everything, Mike. So not give you an exact answer, but I have a very eclectic taste. But thanks for that question. Great question. Okay, my next question is from Brad Marston. And Brad, thank you. He's a brand new patron of mine on my Patreon channel. So appreciate that, Brad. He asked me on that on my page there, how do you handle the situation when you meet other PCT hikers who are harming the trail or endangering others? For instance, starting campfires in Southern California in high winds. He said, I've encountered this several times on the PCT. It's weird. It's not that, you know, I mean, people that are through hiking are a different breed, but they're still humans, and you got to know 99% of them love the trail, pick up their trash, do all the stuff, and don't endanger the trail or themselves or others. But there are those kooks out there that don't care. and it's like, it's kind of sad. I didn't see it very much, but it's almost like, you know, this is their one hike on the trail. They don't care about the trail after the fact. But we did pick up a lot of, you know, like campsites where we'd set up and there'd be a campfire. We'd pick up lots of foil in the fire that's been put out, and just trash and pieces of stuff. We'd pick that stuff up and bring it into town. But I gotta be honest with you, Brad, overall, I didn't see anybody being really disrespectful. The fire thing can get iffy. Sometimes people do have fires. They're being safe about it, but they're in an area where they're either not allowed, or you're not supposed to have it, or it's not smart. I've never seen anybody so far on the trail and do a fire when it's high winds. I've actually wanted to a couple times when it's freezing cold, but I'm smart enough to know not to do that. So I haven't seen that very much. But to be honest with you, to answer your question, I have no problem saying something, and I don't care if it's the PCT. You know, you guys know I love the PCT, but when I'm done with this trail, I want to hopefully do the AT and the CDT and a lot of the other trails. So it doesn't have to be the trail that I love right now, the PCT, but I look at it as I help protect nature. So when we're out there, you know, you are allowed to say to somebody, hey, that's not safe to do that, or don't do that, or, you know, this isn't a place to camp, or, you know, you're going to the bathroom too close to a water source, all the leave no trace policy. So I have no problem seeing that. I just haven't had it happen where I've seen it much. So that's a good thing, I guess, but so far I haven't. All right, our last question is from Badder Than You. I like that. How many miles did it take to get your trail legs? So for those of you that have not watched my through hike, you know, I did vlog every day, but I ended up, before I got hurt and get off trail, I did 903 miles. So I've only done a third of the trail, but I had hiked, I figured out a couple thousand miles before I started the trail, but it was all over 2 or 3 years beforehand, not right before the trail. And actually I didn't hike much before the trail because there's so much to do before you go on a through hike, that I think I did a couple like 10 or 15 mile hikes in the month preceding my hike. But you know, so I wasn't in horrible shape, but I wasn't in my best shape. And to answer your question, I started out, you know, doing 15 miles a day average, and then I stepped it up to 18 and 20 a day through the desert. And I would say that I started feeling good 3 to 4 weeks into it. So when I got the you know, the KOA, Acton, and then Hiker Heaven, and then Costa de Luna, all those, they're all right in a row. I started feeling great. That's you know, 400 plus miles into it. So yeah, I would say 3 to 4 weeks into it, you start getting your trail legs. And you know, I don't know for other people if they get them faster or slower. Some people train harder, some people don't train at all and just try to get in shape on the trail, so it probably takes longer. But yeah, so 3 to 4 weeks for me. Okay, so that'll do it for Q&A number 27. It was breezy off and on during the video. I hope the camera's protected enough not to have too much wind noise, but if there is some, I apologize. But great questions. Keep them coming, please. This is number 27. I am actually later today, this is Tuesday, going on a hike. I'm going to do a quick overnighter, so I have some new things to try out, and my new tent, which I'm about to put up gear review wise. But I want to try out some new things and get some exercise and get on trail. I think where I'm going on trail, if I'm still going to go there, is a little ahead of the new bubble of people that are just starting on March 1st, so I probably won't see any thru hikers, or hardly any, but I'm looking forward to trying out some new gear, so I'll show you some of that stuff in my video, so look for that. So as I mentioned earlier, I have 2 new patrons, so thank you very much. On these Q&As, I always list all my patrons at the end of the video to thank them for that, so please consider being one. I'll put the links at the bottom. So I have my Patreon account that you can support me monthly, or we have a merch site, a new merch site that's up and has some really nice stuff. So if you have anybody, it could be for yourself or gifts, things like that. Check that out. Both links are down below. And just appreciate you watching. I hope you learned something today as usual. And until next time, see you down the trail.